how to make this, whatever this is. Fancy fungal growth, weird psychedelicness. I don't know. Here, let me pulse the feedback loop so you can see it. Ooh, pretty. Okay, so that's what it is. When it hits the edges, it does kind of what you saw. Nifty, neato, super. I originally made this for a couple of promotional pieces for my band, Media. Shameless plug incoming. This is the thing. I'm not going to turn the sound on because it'll just re-record through my microphone and sound like garbage. But if you like weird, kind of heavy, synthy stuff, go check us out. Media is the name of the band. Media.band.us is our Instagram. And as you can see, this is just a vertical version of what we're looking at on Touchdesigner here. All right, party. Shameless plug over. Okay, so now I've distracted you, and it's hit the edges, so you can see what it's doing once it hits the edges. Cool. All right, let's build this thing from scratch. Just open a new file here. Oh, hey, we got one. Cool. All right. Probably should have kept that open. I'm probably going to need it for reference at some point. All right, but this whole thing starts with a circle. By the way, I don't know what level of Touchdesigner prowess everyone watching is at, so if you're wondering how I got that, you can pull up this your op dialog by hitting tab. Anyway, we need a circle. You can really start this with any shape. It doesn't matter so much as long as you have hard black and white or hard white and transparent background. You could do this with an illustration. Feel free to experiment. I did it with a circle because we needed something to overlay text on. So I'm going to set my resolution a bit higher. You can definitely still do this with the non-commercial sizes, but I like 1920 by 1080, so that's what we're going to use. The radius on the circle is going to be 0.22 on the X and 0.11 on the Y, so we're going to get this ellipse happening. Alright, so from there we need to run that out to a null. Since we ran it out to a null, I'm sure you can guess what's coming. Feedback. Okay, cool. Before we move on, good habits and ease of operations here. We're going to add a keyboard in chop. I'm going to activate the viewer, drag that into my feedback, and then set it just by dragging onto the pulse button and choosing chop reference. Now we can pulse the feedback by hitting 1 on keyboard. Much easier than going in and manually clicking this every time you want to reset it. By the way, if you hear my air conditioner in the background, I feel like I'm just fated to have background noise in my tutorials. I guess it's like my signature move at this point. And this is like the only room in the house where it's loud enough that it vibrates the computer, literally. So anyway, I'll try to EQ it out, but it's probably going to be there. Enjoy. Next, we need a level. This is probably going to look sort of familiar because I use a lot of the same nodes in almost all of my feedback stuff. Sort of a one-trick pony there, but I like it. Alright, we're going to leave all this default. We're going to go to the Post tab, and then we're going to change opacity to 0.99. 0.99? Yeah, 0.99. Cool. Then we need a displace. And we'll sew this up in a minute, but for now I'm just going to give it a little room. This is sort of a big feedback loop, so bear with me. Next we need a blur. And then we need to go over to our palette browser, which I have open by default. If you don't see this menu, you can go up to Window, no, I'm sorry, Dialogues. I was in Adobe mode for a second. You can go to Dialogues and choose Palette Browser. If you're on a Mac, you can hit Alt-L, or I believe Option-L if you're on a Windows machine. But you need to select Image Filters from this Palette Browser menu. And then from there, we're going to grab the Sharpen tool and just drag that onto our timeline, our network editor rather, back in Adobe mode again. Okay, so we're going to connect that. We have that, good. And then we're going to have another displace. And again, we'll sew that up in a minute so that we get rid of this warning here. And that's the last piece of the loop, so we're going to connect that to a composite. And then we're going to take this null way over here and drag a wire all the way over. And let's just make sure they're in the correct order. We want the null on the bottom, we want the displace on the top. That is what's happening. Wonderful. And then let's change this operation from multiply to add. Cool. And then let's go ahead and take that out to an RGB key. Where are you? There you are. And then we can go ahead and set that as our background so we can start watching things happen as we get this going. We also need to tell the feedback what where its loop ends. So I'm going to take the composite top and I'm just going to drag the whole thing right onto the feedback, and boom, now we got an arrow, and we have, you can see there is some feedback happening, but not much because we really haven't finished. So second inputs on both of these displace tops that we need to give something. This one is going to be displacing itself, and this one is going to be getting displaced from all the way back here. Okay, we need to insert some operators in those secondary chains. This is where it might start to look familiar if you've seen some of my stuff. Slope, blur, and normal map, excuse me. And then we're going to go ahead and bypass the normal map just because there's sort of a neat trick that involves it that I'll show you a little later, but it's not really a primary feature of this look. So okay, and then we actually need to just put the exact same operators in the secondary chain for the second displace. So again, we're going to do slope. Oh, hey, look at that. We're going to do blur. And we're going to do normal map again. And we're going to bypass that normal map. All right, cool. So we have something happening here. It's not really our look, but you know, things are happening. That's good. So let's go in and make some adjustments to our settings here. This first displace needs to be set to 0.001 in both X and Y directions. So I'm just going to take this, drag it to 0, and then click on it again, select my 0.001 increment, and just go up 1. There we go, boom. That's all we need. Let's go ahead and set the second displace to what it needs to be as well. It is going to be 0.005, so same idea. I'm going to drag this to 0, and then you can type this in too. This is just, I like doing it this way. Yep, 0.005. Good, grand, great, wonderful. Okay. All right, let's adjust some other things. This blur is going to be pre-shrink 1, filter size 2. Everything else the same. Our sharpen is going to be, let's get to the sharpen tab. Our sharpen amount is going to be 0.36. These are just settings I stumbled upon that looked good, so we're going to go with them. And then dry wet 0.495. Okay. already got our displace. Okay, so we need to adjust these. This is where it starts getting cool. So in our slope here, our strength needs to be 60. Yeah, all right, okay, that's pretty sweet. And then our sample step needs to be bigger. So we're going to go ahead and crank this up by 10 until our sample step is 11. Okay, cool. Our blur, we're going to take our pre-shrink all the way up to 8, and then we're going to take our filter size, not all the way up, but almost. We're going to go to 30. There we go. On secondary chain here, slope strength, again, going to be big, 100. Sample step on this one, we're going to crank up by 20. So 10, 11, 21. 21 is our sample step, so 100, 21, great. Our blur, pre-shrink also all the way up. Filter size on this can be 19. Okay. I missed something. Something is amiss. That's not how it's supposed to look. Stand by. Oh, I see what I missed. There's a second sharpen. Okay, all right. 0.365.99. Okay, cool. Let's get back to our other one here. Keep this one open just in case we need it. I'm just going to pause it. All right, so that's what's going on. So we need another sharpen. Drag that out. And let's plug that into our feedback loop here. Now we're talking. There we go. Okay, sweet. And so my computer doesn't have a heart attack. I'm going to Command A and turn off all my viewers. See if I can save us a little bit of CPU. GPU, whatever it is, CPU. Okay, so let's adjust these settings. It was 0.365, I think, 0.365. And this was 0.99. Alright, cool. So we've got really just kind of a reaction diffusion look with a little bit of bleed happening in the middle here, which is really kind of the core of the look. So that's good. So we want to pulse that, see from the beginning. All right, right on. So that's the feedback portion of this. The reason I have the normal maps in here is if you engage them, you can kind of get this cool like nuclear explosion look. So you let it drag all the way down and then you turn it off and oh yeah. Just a cool little trick. That's why I left them in there. And you get kind of different widths depending on where in the chain you engage it. Yeah. And boom. Yeah. All right. Kind of fun. Anyway, proceeding on. So we need a couple other things to get the look. So the actual look that I showed in the beginning is not a 2D look. I take it into 3D with a render network. But let's get our colors and everything else situated first. So we're going to need, back over in palette browser here, we're going to need a bloom. And then while I'm over here, I'm just going to grab the rest of what I need. I'm going to need another sharpen. I'm going to need an RGBA delay. And cool, that's all I'm going to need from the palette browser. So let's drag. Let's get these in our chain here. Should we do them one at a time? Yeah, let's do them one at a time. All right, so let's go bloom. Okay, bloom, we're going to leave this the same. We're going to leave this the same. We're going to bring threshold down to 0.21. We're going to take intensity down to 0.38. Gamma and contrast are going to stay the same. Bloom level is going to stay the same. Glow level is going to stay the same. And then the way we got that disgusting pink color, we discovered this on accident. I didn't know that you could do this, but we were trying to animate the colors, and found out that you can actually take these values into the negative. And so that pink color, I guess technically doesn't exist, but whatever, it renders it as it does. So if I put negative 55 in my green, and then turn my blue to 0, there we go, there's our gross pink color. And then we need to turn the ramp all the way down, and then let's pulse that. It's interesting. I wonder why there is all that green. There wasn't any of that green before. Let's look. .25, .21, .38, 11, .392, .41. Oh, I'm sorry, negative .55. There we go. Getting way out of control here. There we go. There's our color. All right, great. Okay, cool. So that's step 1 on color. Step 2, we're going to add another sharpen back in. Settings on this are going to be 0.195 and 0.31. All right. Let's line these up. Let's not get sloppy here. Okay, and then we need our delay as well. Line that up too. And then our delay settings are going to be -4 on the blue, -7 on the green, and -11 on the red. And that's where I like it. All right, so that's kind of the look in 2D. Now, one other thing I did was I wanted symmetry. And as you can see, this is not exactly symmetrical. We have things kind of drifting this way. And I couldn't really figure out why. So rather than fight it, decided to work around it. So to get symmetry, we can usually just add a mirror in. And then if we want it vertical, we just change the rotate to 90, and boom, we have vertical symmetry. You can add another one in if you want dual axis symmetry. And then we have it's symmetrical up, down, and left and right. I kind of like just left and right. I like the top and bottom sort of doing their own thing. But I'll leave it in the network. Cool. All right, so like I said, we take this into 3D to complete the look. So let's get set up for that before we actually set up our render network. So I'm going to need a null here. This is going to wind up being our color map. And then I'm going to need another, we're going to go blur, and then null. This is going to be our height map. And then I'm going to need another blur. A normal map. And then another null. And this is going to be, believe it or not, our normal map. I know, shocking. Let me just go ahead and deactivate all these viewers, see if I can get us a little frame rate back. Cool. Alright, so the render network is going to be pretty typical. Let's set up our geo first. So we're going to get a grid that is basically the same dimensions as our look here. And then we're going to map everything onto that. And it just gives us a few more options in terms of getting a cool look. So, so if you remember from the beginning, our dimensions were 1920 by 1080. So I don't need a grid that's that big, but I do want something that's proportionally the same size. So I'm going to make my size 1.92 and 1.08. Just check here, see how many my resolution was. Okay, so I just set the columns and rows to mimic my resolution. So these will be 1920, and this will be 1080. Cool. And then let's just put that into a geo. Let's get a camera. Top, and then let's go ahead and bang that out to an RGB key. Oops. And that's going to be our new background, which will not show us anything yet. Turn that off. Alright, cool. So our look just got way more exciting, didn't it? Alright, so let's fix that. So we need a light. But I don't want to just use a regular light. I'm going to use an environment light. Did I use a regular light? I don't think I did. Oh, but I did use an emit map. Interesting. Alright, let's try this with no light first, because I think the environment light may have actually been for the text in the Instagram post. So that'll save us some computing power. So let's just add a material. Use a thong. Boom. And select Parm material. Cool. Alright, so in our thong, we're going to use this first null up here as our color map. We're going to use this second null here as our, oh, it's going to be our height map, sorry. So we need to set up our normal map first. So this is our normal down here. It's got the normal there, see it? Cool. Alright, we're going to drag that on normal map / bump map. And we're going to have to turn on enable height map, and then we can drag this one. Alright, so the other thing we need to do, since we can't see anything because there's no light, is we need to set our material to actually emit light itself. So I'm going to take this first null here and drag it onto the emit map parameter, and then I need to set the light emission to something we can see, like white. And there it is. Now it looks like garbage because our resolution is low, so let's go ahead and set this to 4K, and then let's move our camera in. I think it's going to be too close, yeah. Alright, so let's move that out a little, just 0.1 increments, 2.2, 2.3 I think is going to be our move. 2.3, yeah, 2.3 looks good. Cool. Alright, so just for comparison's sake, what we're seeing here is technically a 3D version of what we were looking at before. And you can see there's some shine, there's a little bit of metallicness to it. It gives it just a little bit more of a tactile feel. If you want to, just for comparison, we can turn on this other background. So you see how this is a bit more washed out. This looks a bit more, I guess, realistic isn't necessarily the right word, but I just think it looks cooler. So that's why we went to 3D. All right, so let's adjust some things here. Let me take a look at the Fungus settings on the original network here. Shininess 100, diffuse 0.7, specular 0.3, bump scale 3, and then displace 0.054. There's no way I'm going to remember that. All right, well, we'll try. Okay, those are defaults. That's handy, so I don't have to remember that. Bump scale, we'll take that up to 3. Displace vertices, that's too much. What did we say? 0.054, I think. Hey. Yeah, looks about right. Did I have anything going on with the parallax scale? Parallax scale is good. Parallax occlusion is off. Sweet. Okay, so that is where we're at. And if I pulse this, we should wind up seeing something pretty similar. Cool. Alright, so let's just make sure these blurs are good. They are, that's what I want them set at. This looks a little darker, so I'm thinking maybe the environment light was actually a necessary feature here. So let me just turn off my viewers again. And then I don't think we need this anymore, so I'm going to go ahead and close it. Alright, so let's add an environment light in. And then let's give the environment light a map. So I'm going to grab a movie file on top. And then you can do this with any HDRI file. This one I like a lot. I use it all the time. Where is it? I think I got it off of polyhaven.com. It was free. It's a missile launch facility, 4K HDR. It just winds up kind of making everything look a little bit gold, which I like. So let's open that. Drag that onto the environment map. And I don't really see a huge difference, but maybe it won't be quite as dark here. Do I have something? Do I have a softness situation happening here? No. Interesting. Well, feedback does behave unpredictably, so. But that is that's more or less the look. So things to experiment with: mess with the sharpen settings. Mess with your blur and your slope settings in the feedback loop. You're going to get wildly different results as you tweak these. What do we have this at? 19, I think. Pre-shrink probably will be more dramatic. You can mess with your displace values. That'll make it move faster or slower. Take it into the negative even, see what happens. Yeah, it gets pretty wild. Oh, that's sweet. Put that back where it was. But there you have it. That's really the look. You can add some post-render effects in if you're so inclined. I wonder if I did that. Oh no, I quit already. I don't think I did. But that's really it. If you want the file, if you don't want to try to recreate this, you can subscribe to my Patreon. The mid-level tier gets all of these files for included, and yeah, if you sign up for the low tier, you get early access to this stuff before I post it to YouTube, but you don't get the files. So mid tier gets the files. Go sign up. Go check out my band. Yeah, and that's that. I'll see you guys at the next one.